Hello, you're watching Gravitas. I'm Shreya Upadhyay. Let's begin. On the show tonight, we look at how American President Donald Trump changed his stance from aggression to diplomatic in case of Iran. Should the world sit back thinking there would be no strike, or is this all part of a strategy? We decode on Gravitas tonight. We also tell you more on the battle that played out in Maharashtra today as more than 3 crore voters exercised their franchisee in the elections to the richest civic body of India. And meet the first Gen Z royal who is all set to become the Queen of Spain in 150 years. Expectations, challenges, and hopes from a young princess poised to rule Europe. This and much more up ahead tonight.
آشنا میشه
Tensions between United States and Iran have further escalated over reports that an Iranian protester was facing execution. Now, those reports prompted strong warnings from Washington and speculation about possible military action. Iran, remember, has since rejected the claims, saying no death sentence was issued and that the charges involved do not carry capital punishment. Despite that, military preparations and diplomatic signals have continued. The flashpoint is the case of a 26-year-old Iranian protester, Irfan Soltani. Reports emerging from human rights groups claim that Soltani had been sentenced to death and he was scheduled for execution following a rushed trial for participating in the anti-government protests in Iran. These reports prompted strong reactions from Washington. US President Donald Trump warned that Washington would take very strong action if Iran began executing protesters. Speculation quickly grew about a possible American military response. However, Iran's judiciary has now flatly denied those claims. In a detailed statement, Iran said the reports of a death sentence were fabricated, adding that the charges against Soltani, including assembly and collusion against the internal security and propaganda against the state, do not carry death penalty under Iranian law. Iran says the maximum punishment would be imprisonment if he's convicted. Tehran, in fact, also said that Irfan Soltani is currently alive and he's being held in a central prison near the capital. So if Iran says that there are no executions that are planned, then what is the basis for American threats of military action? Well, Donald Trump later said that he has been informed that Iran has stopped carrying out executions, but he says that the United States will be upset if these killings take place.
We've been told that the killing in Iran is stopping, and it's stopped, and it's stopping. And there's no plan for executions or executions. So I've been told that on good authority. We'll find out about it. I'm sure if it happens, we'll all be very upset.
His statement comes amid reports by rights groups that Iranian authorities were brutally suppressing protests against the government. A US-based rights group said that it has so far verified the death of over 2,600 individuals. It included 2,403 protesters and 147 government-affiliated individuals. Iran's former vice president, on the other hand, has attacked Donald Trump and said that his war rhetoric and actions are undermining the actual demands of the protesters.
Mr. Trump is a new phenomenon who does not care about international law, international norms, or even the limits of presidential authority. His interference in Iran's internal affairs would undermine and weaken the demands of real protesters, because no nation, especially the Iranian nation with its rich history, would accept interference from other countries.
All of this is unfolding against the backdrop of mass protests across Iran. Iran's own leadership has described it as the most serious domestic unrest that the Islamic Republic has ever faced. Now, as rhetoric escalates, the military signals have also become more visible. United States and its regional partners have set up a new air and missile defense operations cell at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. This move is described as a step to improve coordination and shared response to potential aerial threats across the region. At the same time, the United States has begun withdrawing some personnel from bases in West Asia as a precaution after Iran warned neighboring countries that American bases could be targeted if the US launches strikes. Two European military officials hinted that United States could intervene in Iran within the next 24 hours, but one official also cautioned the Trump administration's strategy was unpredictable in order to keep everyone on their toes. Back in Washington, the public opinion appears divided. According to recent polls, a majority of Americans believe that President Trump has gone too far in foreign military interventions and disapprove of his handling of foreign policy. Despite the lack of a clear trigger event, West Asia waits on the edge of volcano as Trump trapped in doubt over Iran, and the world is watching closely as a single move could escalate tensions further. It's been over 2 weeks since American troops attacked Venezuela and captured its president, Nicolas Maduro. Donald Trump hailed the operation as brilliant. Now it slowly appears that United States may have used a mystery secret weapon, brought Venezuelan soldiers to their knees during the Maduro raid. Is this the same weapon which causes Havana syndrome? Well, our next report explores this.
A daring operation which shocked the world. First a blackout, then multiple explosions across Venezuela. US helicopters rain fire over Caracas. Elite US commandos enter into presidential compound. Within moments, the president of the country was captured and taken out of the country. According to a witness account shared by the White House press secretary, those under fire said it felt like their heads were being torn apart from the inside out. The US attack that led to Venezuelan leader Maduro's capture in Caracas left 100 people dead and dozens more wounded. So, what was this mystery weapon? While the White House and the Pentagon are silent, reports have now emerged that the US may have acquired a device which causes the Havana syndrome. Reports say that the US military acquired a directed energy device. Officials reportedly said they paid 8 figures for the device, while declining to offer a more specific number. The Havana syndrome, it refers to an enigma posed by the baffling symptoms that have plagued US personnel. US embassy officials had first reported the mystery symptoms in 2016. The Cuban capital Havana, diplomats complained about hearing strange noises and experiencing head pressure, followed by headache, migraines, dizziness, and memory lapses. Now, the device, reportedly acquired by US, produces pulsed radio waves. Although the device is not entirely Russian in origin, according to CNN, it contains Russian components. Experts have long pointed out that such a device works by beaming high-intensity radio frequencies or microwaves directly at a target, causing thermal expansion in the inner ear and brain tissue. It creates a sonic boom inside the head that the outside world never hears. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Pakistan has announced a new agreement that combines digital finance and diplomacy. This comes at a time when its relationship with the United States is showing signs of improvement. Pakistan has signed an agreement with a company connected to World Liberty Financial, which is a crypto finance platform linked to the family of US President Donald Trump. This agreement will explore the use of a dollar-pegged stablecoin for cross-border payments, including remittances. According to reports, World Liberty Financial will work with Pakistan's central bank to integrate its stablecoin called USD1 into a regulated digital payment system. This would allow the stablecoin to function alongside Pakistan's own digital currency plans, which are currently under development. This is, remember, one of the first publicly reported cases of a sovereign country exploring a partnership with World Liberty Financial, a platform that was launched only in September 2024. Pakistan is expected to formally announce this agreement during a visit by World Liberty Financial CEO Zach Witkoff to Islamabad. Pakistan's finance ministry and the central bank have not yet made official statements on the details of this deal. However, the country has been actively looking at digital currency projects to reduce cash usage and make international payments faster and cheaper. Reminders and overseas payments are a major source of foreign exchange for Pakistan's economy, remember, including remittances. Stable coins, which are digital tokens tied to the value of the US dollar, are increasingly being seen as a possible solution for cross-border transactions. This development comes at a time when Washington introduced more crypto-friendly policies under Donald Trump, encouraging the growth of stablecoins and digital finance companies. Several countries are now examining how such tokens can be used within regulated financial systems. The deal also takes place against a broader backdrop of improving ties between Islamabad and Washington. Remember, previously a report by the New York Times had stated that Pakistan signed multiple multi-million-dollar agreements with American lobbyists. And this was soon followed by the White House giving favorable tariff rates to the country. Pakistan's Army Chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir, has also visited the White House twice last year, once in June and then again in September, with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. While officials have not publicly connected these events, analysts note that the timing has drawn attention. Now, following these efforts, Pakistan received more favorable trade treatment from Washington, including relatively lower tariff pressure, as compared with other South Asian nations. For now, this agreement remains at an exploratory stage. Its success will depend on regulation, transparency, and how effectively such digital tools can be integrated into existing financial systems. India is watching closely as Pakistan moves to build and deepen its ties with the Gulf, a region that has long been central to New Delhi's own strategic, economic and energy calculus. Over the past few weeks alone, the diplomatic traffic tells a story that just cannot be ignored. Pakistan's president is in Bahrain from the 13th till the 16th of January. A new Pakistani chancery has just been inaugurated in Jeddah. Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister has met with the Iranian ambassador. The UAE president visited Pakistan in late December, and just days earlier, Pakistan's president concluded an official visit to Iraq. This is not routine diplomacy. This is part of Pakistan's Gulf push, and it raises a question that India cannot afford to dismiss lightly. Is Pakistan regaining strategic relevance in the Gulf, and what does it mean for India? To be clear, India's own engagement with West Asia has been active and substantive in its own right. In December 2025, the Indian Prime Minister had visited Jordan and Oman, the first ever official visit to Jordan, marking 75 years of diplomatic ties. A comprehensive economic partnership agreement was also signed with Oman, which is India's second free trade pact with a Gulf country. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar had travelled to the UAE twice in 2025, holding high-level discussions on regional security and geopolitics. After the Pahalgam terror attack, the Indian parliamentary delegations visited Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Egypt, Algeria and the UAE to explain India's position on terrorism. Leaders from the Arab world have also been coming to India. Qatar's Emir in February, Egypt's foreign minister in October, and Bahrain's foreign minister in November. So this is not a vacuum that India has left behind. But Pakistan is clearly attempting a reset, and it is doing so from a position of economic urgency. For Pakistan, the Gulf is not just a diplomatic partner, it is an economic lifeline. Remittances from overseas Pakistanis crossed nearly $35 billion in the fiscal year 2025, with Saudi Arabia and the UAE accounting for the largest share. More than 6 million Pakistanis live and work in the Gulf. Their remittances cover between 8 and 10% of Pakistan's GDP. That money keeps Pakistan's external accounts afloat. Without it, the balance of payments simply does not hold. But remittances are only one layer. Pakistan's trade with the Gulf has surged nearly 8-fold since 2000. But this growth hides a structural weakness in Pakistan, which is a deep trade deficit driven overwhelmingly by energy imports. Over 60% of Pakistan's imports from the GCC are oil, gas and petroleum products. The UAE alone accounts for nearly 40% of the Pakistan GCC trade and a deficit of almost $6 billion. This is dependence, not partnership, and Islamabad knows it. And that is why Pakistan is now pitching itself not just as a labor supplier, but as a strategic and economic partner, particularly in sectors that the Gulf is prioritizing under Vision 2030. For New Delhi, meanwhile, the challenge is not Pakistan's diplomacy per se. It is ensuring that India's own engagement remains comprehensive, future-facing, and differentiated. Energy security, defense cooperation, digital infrastructure, green hydrogen, advanced manufacturing, fintech, and diaspora skilling. These are all areas where India has a decisive edge. But presence matters, and in this day and age, lies travel faster than truth. All right, shifting our focus now. Why are Ukrainian soldiers deserting the front lines? In a rare admission, Ukraine's defense minister has said that 200,000 Ukrainian soldiers are absent without an official leave. As Kiev battles a growing manpower crisis, Russia continues its relentless assault. US President Donald Trump blames the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky for holding up peace negotiations with Russia. Our next report explores if Ukraine is on a back foot at the moment.
Ukraine's military is under mounting pressure, not just on the battlefield, but from within. As Russia continues its unrelenting strikes, Ukrainian troops are reportedly fleeing the front lines. The deepening manpower crisis has turned out to be one of the biggest headaches for the Ukrainian army. Kiev says that nearly 200,000 soldiers are absent without official leave. They have left their positions without permission. Ukraine's newly appointed defense minister says around 2 million Ukrainians are wanted for avoiding military service. This damning admission comes at a time when Russian forces are on the march. Russian troops are storming the Ukrainian defenses. Moscow claims that it has taken more than 300 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory in the past 2 weeks of January. The Ukrainian military has been under strain for years as it tries to defend the country against a much bigger and stronger enemy. Conditions along the front line, which have been brutal, have been deteriorating. Outgunned and outnumbered, Ukrainian soldiers have been struggling to hold on to key positions.
Every time I go to a position, it feels like it might be the last time. Why? Because there are so many FPV drones flying around. The most dangerous ones are those equipped with fiber optics. Against standard FPVs, we have electronic warfare, which theoretically should save us.
They said that everything will be fine soon. We are watching and hoping that everything will be fine, but only God knows what will happen next. If things get bad, we will leave, of course.
US President Donald Trump is sharing his frustration with his Ukrainian counterpart. He says Putin is ready to end the war, but Zelensky is reluctant. Russia says Ukraine is running out of options to strike a peace deal. It alleges Ukraine is not serious, though Moscow is open for talks. Russia wants US to brief it on the latest peace proposals for Ukraine.
President Putin repeatedly, including over the last couple of weeks, at various events confirmed our position that we are open to talks on Ukraine. If those talks are serious and people who are interested in them are really ready for them and they have substantive proposals.
Russia has pounded Kyiv and the country with missiles and drones over the last few days, leaving around 70% of the capital without power. Kyiv is appealing its Western allies to put more pressure on Putin. Moscow has not backed down from its intention to seize the rest of East Ukraine. The situation is deteriorating day by day for Kyiv. With diplomacy at a standstill, the future of the conflict and the path towards peace looks uncertain. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And coming up on Gravitas, with Donald Trump's knee-jerk moves, is China the biggest beneficiary? We explore this in a bit. Also, Minneapolis is on the edge once again with another ICE shooting reported in the area. And a latest proposal suggests putting up Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's photograph in the country's classrooms. More on this up ahead. US President Donald Trump has issued a veiled warning to NATO, raising fresh questions about the alliance's limits. His stated interest in acquiring Greenland has put the spotlight on NATO's core principle of collective defense. And now, the situation seems as if any move by America to seize Greenland would directly test the alliance's credibility. Over the past year, Donald Trump has pressured NATO allies through threats and demands for change. His comments suggesting control of Greenland, even by force, have triggered alarm across Europe, with fears that the move could fracture the transatlantic alliance. NATO allies agree Greenland, which is a self-governing territory, has the right to decide its own future. Greenland's Prime Minister said that the territory would choose to remain with Denmark rather than join the United States.
We are now facing a geopolitical crisis, and if we have to choose between the United States and Denmark here and now, we choose Denmark.
Now, the comments came as America's Vice President J.D. Vance and the Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with Danish and Greenlandic foreign ministers at the White House. The sides agreed to form a committee to explore whether the progress is possible, saying talks should continue face to face. After the meeting, Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen said that a frank but also constructive discussion took place with Rubio and Vance, but that a fundamental disagreement still persists. And soon after this meeting, Copenhagen announced it is increasing its military presence in Greenland in coordination with allies. Denmark, which is responsible for Greenland's defense, warned that an attack would effectively end NATO.
From today and in the coming period, there will be an increased military presence in and around Greenland of aircraft, ships, and soldiers, including from other NATO allies. Security in the Arctic is of crucial importance for both the Kingdom of Denmark and NATO as a whole.
Remember, Europeans have sent its troops to Greenland. Among them, 15 soldiers are from France and one British officer who is headed to the Danish territory. This hastily convened military deployment comes ahead of a planned larger exercise called Operation Arctic Endurance. The drill will involve soldiers, naval vessels and aircraft from Denmark and small numbers of unarmed or lightly armed personnel from Germany, France, Norway and Sweden. The dispute over the Greenland area, remember, comes at a sensitive moment for NATO. European members are stretched by support for Ukraine. And during this critical time, the rising divisions within the NATO are quite evident. Poland has now said that it will not deploy troops.
Today isn't really the time or place for a detailed analysis of the geopolitical and military consequences of a potential armed intervention by the United States in Greenland. It would be a disaster in a political sense, and from our point of view, I mean a conflict or an attempt to take over the territory of a country that is a NATO member by another NATO member state, and what's more, it's the United States. Well, that would be the end of the world as we know it, which has guaranteed our security for decades.
NATO allies often send troops to train in each other's countries. The U.S. stations, remember, about 150 troops at the Pacific Space Base in northwestern Greenland. Allies, including America, have all pushed for years to increase joint exercises in the Arctic Circle. Earlier on Gravitas, we told you about the battle for silver, that for the first time, the white metal broke above $90 an ounce. Well, today, it pulled back as investors took profits and the U.S. decided not to impose broad import tariffs on critical minerals. The metal fell as much as 7.3% on Thursday before recovering some losses later in the session. Prices had jumped more than 20% in 4 days, driven by industrial demand and speculative buying, especially in China. President Donald Trump stopped short of imposing broad tariffs on imports like silver and platinum, and instead, he proposed bilateral negotiations and price limit, following months of review on whether foreign shipments threaten U.S. national security. COMEX warehouses in New York currently hold about 434 million ounces of silver, which is roughly 100 million more than a year ago, when tariff fears had intensified. Analysts now say that this stockpile may help ease supply pressure, but silver is still volatile. Remember, silver outpaced gold last year, rising nearly 150% as investors rotated from gold to silver. Industrial demand, particularly for solar energy and speculative buying in China, have pushed prices higher. Silver and gold both have benefited from a broad commodities rush, along with tin and copper reaching record highs. Markets have also reacted to Donald Trump's pressure on the Fed. Geopolitical events like tensions in Iran and the American raids on Venezuela, they've also increased safe haven demand. Thin liquidity and surging investor demand have made silver prone to sharp swings. By 1 p.m. London time, silver was down 2.5% at $90.79 and gold fell 0.3% to $4,615, while platinum and palladium also dropped. Market experts say that gold's rally may continue, but silver and copper flows are wobbling as investors question supply limits. In short, silver remains highly volatile, supported by demand, speculation, and limited supply. Moving on, is America losing its grip on global influence? It's a question we have all asked ourselves over the last few years, and today, all signs on the ground point to it. A year into Donald Trump's return to the White House, a major new global survey suggests that Trump's America First agenda may be having the opposite effect on U.S. influence worldwide. The European Council on Foreign Relations, which surveyed nearly 26,000 people across 21 countries, has released its findings. And what it finds may vindicate Trump's critics, because the survey found that while China's influence is expected to rise, the United States is losing credibility with its allies and is no longer feared by its traditional rivals. Across Europe, confidence in the United States has fallen sharply. Most citizens no longer see Washington as a reliable partner, and support for rearmament is on the rise. Meanwhile, Russia increasingly views the European Union as a rival rather than America and Ukraine. They're looking more towards Brussels than Washington for support. Remember, the ambushed Ukrainian president faced in the Oval House from Trump and his team when he had visited Washington last February. Well, could that have been a catalyst for that change of heart in Kiev? Who knows? But Ukraine is increasingly seeing Europe as an ally over the United States. But that's not all. More and more American allies have turned, like South Africa, Brazil, and even India. Majority now views China as a partner or even an ally. When asked what China is to India, opinions were split. Just 22% call China an ally, while 25% see it as a necessary partner. Meanwhile, 16% view China as a rival and another 25% as an adversary. In contrast, India sees the United States much more positively. A majority, 54%, call America an ally, while 22% see it as a necessary partner. Only 10% view America as a rival and just 7% as an adversary. Now, while the United States is still seen as an ally in India, China is increasingly seen as a necessary partner or an ally by nearly half the population. Could it be because of the trade tensions under President Trump? Well, the 50% tariff on India may have chipped away at America's influence, giving China room to strengthen its ties with India. Meanwhile, the Europeans are watching China closely as it leads in electric vehicles, renewable energy, and technology. Even inside America, 54% of the respondents expect Beijing's influence to grow over the next decade, as compared with a declining expectation for American power. Across almost every surveyed country, the US is no longer seen as a primary global anchor. The report also highlights the changing perceptions of Trump himself. Fewer people believe his policies are good for global peace or for their own countries than they did 12 months ago, and in Europe, only 16% now consider the US as an ally, while 20% see it as a rival or even an enemy. In Russia, more people now view Europe as a threat than the United States, and in China, 61% see America as a threat, but recognize the EU as a global power. What does all this indicate? For one, China's rise is widely expected, and the US risks being seen as distant, unreliable, or even self-interested. Analysts say that this could have serious implications for alliances and the balance of power over the next decade. The survey authors caution that the world is moving toward a new order where traditional alliances are less stable and power is increasingly multipolar. They argue that European leaders in particular will need to be realistic and daring, finding new ways to protect their interests and position themselves as independent players. In short, Trump's approach designed to make America great again may just have in practice contributed to making China great again. Minneapolis is once again on the edge as immigration enforcement, street protests, and a sharp warning from President Trump converge in a fast escalating crisis. In the latest development, Donald Trump has threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act over unrest in Minnesota. In a social media post, Donald Trump slammed protesters and Democratic leaders in the state, calling the situation a travesty and signaling that he may authorize federal military deployment if the violence continues. The Insurrection Act of 1807 allows a U.S. president to deploy the military domestically or take control of National Guard units during extreme civil unrest. This warning comes as tensions boiled over again in Minneapolis, where a federal law enforcement officer shot a man in the leg during an immigration enforcement operation.
Back up!
It's not too late! Stop embracing state!
The U.S. Department of Homeland Security says the man entered the United States illegally from Venezuela in 2022 and tried to escape arrest by driving away from officers. Authorities say he crashed into a parked vehicle and fled on foot. When an officer caught up with him, the DHS claims two other individuals attacked the officer using a snow shovel and a broom handle.
This whole city!
According to federal officials, the fleeing man then joined the assault, striking the officer with one of the objects. During the struggle, the officer fired a shot, hitting the man in the leg. Both the officer and the injured man received hospital treatment. Local police say the shooting occurred during a physical struggle with an ICE agent. The latest violence comes just 1 week after an ICE agent fatally shot 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good during immigration raids ordered under Trump-era policies. That killing had triggered days of protests across Minneapolis. Following this incident, demonstrations had happened and demonstrators gathered near the site of the latest shooting in North Minneapolis. Crowds confronted the police as smoke filled the air and loud explosions echoed through multiple intersections. Officers in riot gear patrolled the area while fireworks went off and authorities deployed gas multiple times to disperse the crowds. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey condemned the presence of federal immigration agents in the city.
We cannot be at a place right now in America where we have two governmental entities that are literally fighting one another. It's certainly not creating safety when a huge percentage of the shootings that have taken place so far this year in Minneapolis have been by ICE.
With protests intensifying, federal threats escalating, and law enforcement operations continuing, Minneapolis now finds itself at the center of a national debate over immigration, policing, and presidential powers. Washington has moved from battlefield to balance sheet. Just weeks after a dramatic U.S. operation in Venezuela that ended with the capture of President Nicolas Maduro, the Trump administration has now pulled off something just as consequential. Its first major sale of Venezuelan oil. And why does this matter? Well, because according to the U.S. government, Venezuela has over 300 billion barrels worth of crude. That's about a fifth of the world's total reserves. So in a nutshell, the power has shifted, money is moving, and the oil is already flowing. The administration has locked in an initial oil sale worth roughly $500 million, marking the opening chapter of a much larger $2 billion energy agreement with Venezuela. Now, officials say that this is only the start, with more transactions expected in the coming days and weeks. The White House is calling this a historic energy breakthrough. The Trump team says it is now actively talking with major oil companies prepared to invest billions to revive Venezuela's crumbling oil infrastructure. The message from Washington seems to be clear. Rebuild the oil fields, restore production, and redirect the profits. The revenue from these oil sales will be kept in U.S.-controlled bank accounts, including a primary account in Qatar, chosen specifically to shield the funds from legal challenges or seizure risks. After Nicolas Maduro's arrest, Trump, remember, had said that the United States would oversee Venezuelan administration during a transition period and take charge of the oil sector. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, later confirmed plans to seize and sell up to 50 million barrels of Venezuelan crude under the agreement. Remember, Venezuela's interim authorities will export those barrels directly to American refiners. At current prices, that could translate into $2.5 to nearly $3 billion in total revenue. So whether this deal enforces accountability and reshapes power in the Western Hemisphere using oil not just as a fuel, but as leverage remains to be seen. Jaipur witnessed a historic first today as the Indian Army held its Grand Army Day parade on the public streets. This was the first time it was held outside the cantonment area. Citizens of Jaipur experienced up close the skills, the courage, and the discipline of the Indian Army. Crowds lined the streets as troops marched in unison, and the sky above was dominated by Apache, Prachand, Dhruv, and Rudra helicopters. It displayed the Air Force's precision and control. The parade was a showcase of India's modern military capabilities. BMP-2 infantry combat vehicles, Nag and Helena missile systems, K-9 Vajra artillery, mobile anti-tank teams, all-terrain patrol vehicles, specialized mobility vehicles, and the Zu-23 twin-barrel anti-aircraft gun. Upgrades and weapons were at full display at this event.
एग्मा ऑल टेरेन मानव कम्युनिकेशन रिले और सेंसर डिप्लॉयमेंट आसमानों की हद तक के गढ़वाल स्काउट्स तथा कुमाऊं स्काउट्स और सबसे युवा स्काउट्स स्टेप्स फॉरवर्ड इन अ परफेक्ट हार्मनी ऑफ 250 सालों की गौरवशाली विरासत these young cadets represent.
Troops from the newly raised Bhairav Battalion also took part. The Bhairav Battalion, situated between the Para Special Forces and regular infantry, was raised to meet the demands of modern warfare. It provides a rapid and precise offensive response to threats to the nation.
भैरव बटालियन के बाद मंच तब डटे हुए निर्भीक निडर आपके समक्ष भारतीय सेना की नवगठित भैरव बटालियन जैसा नाम वैसा काम। जी हां, भगवान
इस परिवर्तन प्रक्रिया के अंतर्गत भैरव बटालियन, अश्विनी प्लेटून, शक्तिवान रेजिमेंट, दिव्यास्त्र बैटरी जैसे नई इकाइयां खड़ी की गई हैं, जिनको आज आपने परेड के दौरान खुद देखा हुआ है। ये संरचनाएं भविष्य की चुनौतियों के अनुरूप एक एजाइल, रिस्पॉन्सिव और मिशन ओरिएंटेड सेना के निर्माण को दर्शाती हैं।
And there were other notable infantry units as well. Maratha Light Infantry, Madras Regiment, Rajput Regiment, Dogra Regiment, Artillery Regiment and NCC cadets. They all took part in this parade. Contingents from Ladakh, Himachal Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim added to the diversity and vigor of the parade. One of the highlights was a tableau depicting Operation Sindoor, reminding the viewers of the Army's strategic action and victory against Pakistan's unprovoked actions back in May last year. The parade also demonstrated advanced technology, including robot dogs, all-terrain vehicles, ramjet-powered supersonic missiles, and the mighty BrahMos, which is India's very indigenous long-range missile.
Unmanned ground vehicle RS of 7 Engineer Regiment. It is a multi-role 6-wheel drive all-terrain UGV with multi-various capabilities. The detachment.
The Army also showcased its artificial intelligence, drone and tech capabilities with the integrated drone detection and interdiction system on display, underscoring India's push towards high-tech warfare. Extending the celebrations in the evening, a Shaurya Sandhya was also held at the SMS Stadium of the Pink City, where Defence Minister Rajnath Singh participated. Today's parade was more than a display of strength. It was a celebration of India's readiness, its modernization, and the spirit of the Indian Army. Well, shifting our focus now to Israel, where the country's education ministry is examining a proposal that could make the country's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's photograph a mandatory fixture in every classroom across the country. A move that is likely to raise questions on how politics enters Israel's education system. Until now, the rules have been clear. Schools must display the Israeli national flag and nothing more. No leaders, no politicians, no portraits. According to reports in Israeli media, that long-standing boundary is now under review, and Netanyahu's image stands at the heart of this discussion. The ministry is considering a uniform policy on state symbols that could require classrooms to display portraits of senior leaders, starting with the Prime Minister, and potentially extending to other political figures such as the Israeli president and the leader of opposition. Now, this move has reportedly sparked a debate on whether the proposal reinforces state authority or simply blurs the line between education and political messaging, especially as Israel is scheduled for general elections in October this year. And the debate seems to be already spilling into Israeli schools. Videos circulating online allegedly show teachers removing Benjamin Netanyahu's photograph from classrooms, sometimes even with students participating in the act. In other cases, objections have surfaced over displaying images of opposition leaders and even the IDF chief. Now, with elections on the horizon and political tensions running high, the question is about power, symbolism, and whether Netanyahu's leadership should follow students into the classroom every single day. News from Pakistan now, where Imran Khan's rise to power did not begin in the parliament. It began on the cricket field, as we all know, where his skills, whether it was with the bat, the ball or the captaincy, all reached a pinnacle moment when he successfully led his side to help clinch the 1992 ODI World Cup, an event that further cemented his legacy as a national hero. That image carried him from stadiums to street rallies. That same legacy helped him become Pakistan's Prime Minister. And now, history seems to be repeating itself. But this time, the symbol is not his iconic cricket jersey. It is a number. It is 801, which is assigned to him in jail. And this number is becoming more and more popular in Pakistan. Not just for its symbolism, but one that carries political weight, emotion, and a wider message. And it will soon be officially stamped on vehicle number plates. On the 27th of January this year, the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government will auction special registration numbers Imran Khan 804 and Imran Khan 1. The Khyber Pakhtunkhwa government says that public demand pushed this number into the auction list. Officials admit that people showed unusual interest. The base price stands at 1 million Pakistani rupees or around $3,600 US, the bidding of which will happen in Peshawar. This is happening in a province where Imran Khan's party, the PTI, runs the government. The number has been linked directly to Khan's jail identity. Ever since his arrest in August 2023, supporters have turned it into a slogan. They chant it in crowds, they display it in stadiums, they wear it on caps. In a lot of ways, this has become a badge of support. Last year, the number sparked controversy across Pakistan. Crowds shouted it during the PSL matches. Amir Jamal, who's a national cricket player, wore it publicly during training for an upcoming test series and faced penalties. Pakistan police has even stopped vehicles displaying fake number plates. In September last year, a popular TikToker even landed in jail for using it in the Punjab province. Now, the same number enters a government auction. Once Khan's cricket jersey helped build a political legacy. Today, a jail number mirrors it. Symbols matter in Pakistani politics. Emotion still moves voters. And Imran Khan's shadow continues to loom large. If you've seen Anne Hathaway's film, The Princess Diaries, you would find this next story familiar. But if you haven't, let me tell you about a Gen Z girl who's all set to become the Queen of Spain. Meet Princess Leonor, the Gen Z royal who is poised to make history as Spain's first reigning queen in nearly 150 years. At just 20 years of age, Leonor de Bourbon y Ortiz is not just a symbol of royal progression. She's also the face of modern monarchy. Leonor was born to King Philip VI and Queen Letizia. However, unlike fairy tale versions of royalty, her preparation for the throne has been anything but ceremonial. By law, Spain's future monarch must train across all three branches of the armed forces. And so, Leonor has attended army boot camp and marched with cadets, sailed on a 17,000-mile naval voyage, and had a warship stint as well. She's in fact even completed solo flight training with the country's Air Force, a first for a Spanish royal woman. On her 18th birthday, Leonor stood before Spain's parliament and swore allegiance to the Constitution, a moment that formally sealed her destiny. She was educated at the prestigious UWC Atlantic College in Wales and speaks multiple languages: French, Arabic, Mandarin, to count just a few. When she does ascend the throne, Leonor will be Spain's first queen regnant since Queen Isabella II, whose reign ended in 1868. In an era of questioning the relevance of royalty, Princess Leonor represents something new, a blend of tradition, transparency, discipline, and youth. Lovingly called Spain's future, the princess isn't just waiting in the wings. She's already stepping in and creating history. And on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas. But as always, we'll keep getting you news and analysis from across the world. Thank you for joining us tonight. Bye-bye.
is our brand new edition of South India, a daily dynamic show that will capture the pulse of the southern Indian state.
By blending special stories of the day, breaking alerts and cultural vignettes.
From the 7 days,
where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA,